Person-centered planning is about my life, my choices, and the choices that I desire. And I think that should happen for all the self-advocates and what they desire and dream big.
I like how it seems that this is an approach that is really practical and usable and doable. It's not real fancy or slick, so that I think it really works with people.
PCT is about me, so it's basically what I want, and I have to learn how to voice it at my meetings. They helped me get enrolled in school, the staff did. So I start school on Monday, actually. Yay, I'm so excited. I'm going to school to be a teacher. They help me just express myself on an everyday basis, just whether it's with work or whether it's with school. They just help me tell them what I want.
I think that, as a person who really likes helping people, we think that we are person-centered and we think about the person. But it really made me evaluate how much we focus on the risks and what could happen, and about, how I know someone so well and I can help them really figure out what they want to do. Whereas I should just be asking them what they want to do and hold back my own personal thoughts about that. And start asking better questions.
I think what's new about person-centered thinking now is that it's the whole balance thing. It's about what's important both to a person and for a person. It's not just this free choice, I can do anything I want. I can't do anything to prevent somebody from doing anything they want, no matter the cost. It's a much more realistic and respective and caring, I think, approach to looking at people and what their needs are.
In the social services field, there is a lot of turnover. And sometimes we may not be hiring the right fit. And I feel like with these practices, it's a better fit for the person we support and for the staff. I actually had an individual that came in Mainsail that had a lot of problems with other providers. He was kind of the bad guy that no one wanted to support. And it was because of how he maintained or did not maintain his relationships and how he put a lot of people out of his life. And so we started doing what's working and what's not working, what makes sense, what is something we should just throw away because it's not working out for him. And when we did working and not working, we really identified what is important to him, what's important for him, and how a staff can best support him right away. Because he did have a 3 strikes policy. If it's not working out the first 3 times, you're kind of out of here. And what we have used other tools with the same situation is for the staff and the person we support to have a better understanding of what the supports are supposed to look like. How are we supposed to support you in these goals, and what is not the staff's responsibility? Because there is some trouble there trying to identify, well, can a staff do this or can they not do this? And so we even did a donut sort where he got to identify, these are my goals and these are how you're to support me. These are some things that I want for my life that aren't maybe formal goals, but these are the things I want support in so that I can improve my life. And then these are some things that are not a staff's responsibility. And so he has that so he can also hold the staff accountable to make sure, hey, you're supposed to be supporting me in these ways, but also to remind staff, these are the things that you are supposed to be doing and things that are not your responsibility.
Quite often, and most of the time, people feel that they're very good at being person-centered already. And I always encourage them to continue to be that. But what I find is we have many aha moments from those people who are already doing a great job that all of a sudden say, wow, that means so much more. And now that makes some sense. And that's what makes the job really rewarding in being a trainer, is helping people who are already doing a great job at doing an even better job and understanding really why are we doing what we do. And that is just simply to help others to be the best people that they can be.
We have recently created one-page profiles on all of our residents and like and admire pages for all of our residents. Getting them into the hands of the direct care staff is absolutely the basis that we have to work with. It's the core of what we need to do in order for this information to really make a difference. So we struggled with where to have that information and how to really use them, after a few trial and errors, we've ended up putting them in all of our residents' rooms with their permission. We found that they loved it. They embraced it. These were nice things that were being said about them. The photo that was sent to me today, a staff member shared, was one of our beautiful residents. She'd walked up to her sign that said, "What I like and admire about." And she had her finger and she was just running off all of these beautiful things that have been said about her and that people truly do like and admire about her. And what a beautiful way to feel good and to make somebody feel good with what is true and honest in their life. What we've asked our staff to start doing with that information is to use it daily, not just walk by it, not just think that they've read it, but to actually utilize that information in their interactions. So, for instance, when they're helping somebody up in the morning, to look at that like and admire and take some of that language to wake their friend up and say good morning and start their day with that fabulous piece of information. Throughout the day, to use those one-page profiles to identify things that are favorites, that are important to that person, and to be able to utilize that in their activity, in daily cares, so that the person is receiving that and really feeling that they're cared about and that somebody knows how they like to have things done. At the end of the day, when they're getting somebody ready for bed and helping them and assisting them, why not take that like and admire information again and let somebody know how special their day was because of, and thank that resident for making my day special, the staff person's day special. We're trying to show the staff that waking up and starting your day with positive information helps the day go better. It helps you have a good day versus a bad day. Ending the day with some of that fabulous feedback, once again, it allows a person to rest easy, to know that somebody cares about them, and that it's not just the tasks that are being done, but real personal attention on the things that are important to that person. It's going to make a difference in big ways.
My nephew is 8, going into second or third grade. Don't quote me on that. And he came home from his first day of whatever grade that was with one-page summary for one of the other kids in his class. It was a little boy who had autism or was on the autism spectrum, and his parents he actually had worked with his parents together to create this one-page summary of, this is who I am. I'm going to be in your class. These are the things that I like. This is how I'm just like you in all of these ways. These are the ways that I'm unique. And it really, I think it served its intended purpose, which of course was to inform the other kids in the class that this child was going to be there and that his needs were going to be a little different. But it had a sort of secondary purpose where it touched off this discussion in their home between my nephew and his parents, and I happened to be there. And it was a more general, sort of broad discussion of there are people out there with different needs who aren't going to react to the world the same way that you do. And it doesn't mean that they're any less deserving of respect or any less a candidate for your friendship than they would be if they reacted the same way you do. And so I kind of imagined at that point that the power of these one-page summaries can go, I think, a long way beyond. While it's extremely important that it helps kids know how to treat the individual that it's written about, it can have, I think, a more of a ripple effect because it's starting these conversations in the community in a more general way about disability or mental health or whatever the reason for writing it is. And especially because it's happening to someone as young as 8 years old, when he's getting exposed to that idea nice and early. I think it can only make him a more, compassionate, tolerant human being.
So the story is about my own son, about Derek, and it actually starts when he was in 6th grade, going into 6th grade. And I came to the IEP meeting with an agenda and a vision for where I wanted to see Derek. And that came from parents as case managers from the Institute on Community Integration line of thinking, and had the team look at me like, "You're insane," when I said I want him to live in the community with 1 or 2 friends, non-disabled, just in a regular home, and I want him to work. And they looked at each other around the table and shook their heads like, "This poor woman." Following that line of person-centered thinking all the way through his school years and into adult life, that's exactly where Derek is, living in the community with a friend, working his own business. So I've seen the impact on him of being able to have a job he loves and doing it with the freedom of having choice of who he's with and where he goes. We keep the learning log active. We keep an action plan active. Every year, all of his family and friends meet and we put sheets up and he's there with us and we talk about how awesome he is, what he's accomplished, and what next? Where do we go from here? I just think employment should be part of all of this planning. That was probably the biggest disbelief of the school team back then, but that also brings Derek some of the best recognition and joy now.
Person-centered training is listening to what I want and need in my life to continue on in a certain path that I suggest.
Sandy brought in the learning log that the big long 16-page, like the one-page description, extended edition. And we've been using that with him, and just the relationship that I have with him, sitting down and going through, filling out page by page of all of this individually, and then having a big person-centered plan where he was able to guide those conversations, tell everyone what he thought was important to him and what he felt was important for him, which was completely different than the team, but it was able to give us a lot of perspective and gave him a huge voice within, the residents. And through that, all the behaviors that he was having, which he was having high behaviors where police were being called almost 4 or 5 times a month, if not more. And now he's been going months and weeks upon no escalations. So just the fact that him feeling heard and him seeing that the staff are actually using the plan that he and I developed together is super beneficial as well. And when he sees that we're actually implementing what he wants us to implement, it's made a whole lot of difference.
We're not, completely relying on the tools. It's the way our thinking process is, the way we problem solve, the way we could better support the individual and motivate them to think for themselves, to have goals for their life and have ownership of what they want in their life and have control of the services that they're receiving and their life as a whole, their job, where they want to live, things like that. I have found that there's a lot of people that get used to the service, get used to the label. And since we have been starting some approaches, everyone being trained and understand, our thinking has changed. The silly paperwork has changed. It's more for the person. And also just with how we match staff and the person we support. It's just a better fit.
There's a situation that the patient hasn't had any family contact for over 5 years. He reached out and asked me if I could try and find one of them. He had one name, and that's all he gave me. Talked to the supervisor. Supervisor was on board about it and said, "You go ahead and try and find the supervisor or find the family members." And about a week and a half, I ended up finding more members' addresses for this relative. Gave the address to the patient. I helped the patient write a letter to the family member asking, "Are you my relative. And about 2 weeks later, he ends up getting a letter from his aunt saying, yes, I'm glad that you reached out and we're worried about you. You know, they haven't seen him for over 5 years, seen or heard of him. They were really worried about what happened with him. So now the patient has this really nice family support group outside the facility, and he's been doing really well ever since then.
Well, I'll tell you about Nate. Nate is 26 years old, and I started out working with his mom, and his mom was just pulling her hair out, not knowing exactly what to do with Nate. Nate graduated from high school, and he was on the autism spectrum disorder, and just didn't know what the next step was. So I said to Mom, how about I meet with him for coffee? I'll say exactly what you said, and I'll probably get shot down just like you do. But for some reason, it really sunk in for him. And within 3 years, now I've been coaching him for 3 years, he is back at college. We use person-centered plan and person-centered thinking. That's how everything started, was with a person-centered plan. We meet monthly on his goals and just touch base. I got him lined up for an internship this summer at a local camp, and now he's going back to school for video editing, and has held down a job for 1.5 years, and now he's looking into moving out. He has more of a social life than I ever had and ever will, and he's just really my success story.
I use the good day, bad day, what's working, what's not working. I use that almost on an everyday basis. There's another patient also that gets really assaultive real quick when he hears the word no, or if something's not working for him. And we use the what's working, what's not working, and the pros and cons to the situation, and just gives him time to think about the situation and maybe not to go as far as throwing chairs and assaulting people. And I've talked him down numerous times now by using that tool.
When I went through the PIP grant, we were required to do like 10 different plans. So, and because I was a part of it, I chose, I think, 4 or 5 of my people that I support to go through and have a plan done. So one of my people right now, her goal was, she had a lot of goals, but her goal was to get a dog, to move in with her boyfriend, to have a baby, which is hopefully a little bit farther out, but who knows. But right now, she has made amazing strides since the meeting. We put down kind of some next steps. She's met every single step. Now we've already talked to the apartments. She has an apartment, a 2-bedroom that she's going to be moving with her boyfriend in February. And we have all the next steps in place. We have a meeting set up for both teams to kind of come together and see how this is going to look. And then officially have the move. She's gotten a job. She has a dog lined up that's ready to move in with her once she has the dog. And she's just like a completely different person today than she was then, because she's just so happy and just so filled with like joy knowing that she did it. Like she did it with all of the steps, and she's going to get to do the things that she wanted to do. In her meetings, she would just kind of sit there and she'd be like, you say it, Sarah, you say it, Sarah. And now she says it, and she knows what she wants, and she is willing to like speak up and say it, because before she'd be like, they're going to say no. And now she just says, she asks what she wants to do, and we come up with a plan, and she gets where she wants to be.
I think there is some resistance. I think there's resistance sometimes because we're so overworked and have just so much on our plate that it's like, I just can't do one more thing. And I want to come into people and say, this is a different one more thing. This is a one more thing that if you use it, will make things a little easier, will make it better, will make it just much more worthwhile. The other thing I think sometimes that bugs me is when we're talking about person-centered thinking and approaches, and people go, oh, that's nice. It's so good that you're doing those good things. It's it's much more than that. It's not just a good thing. It's really a way of thinking and approaching life and other people. It's what really counts. And it really is nothing that should have that condescending air. So I guess that's the thing that I really want to push back against, that this is a real thing.
One person that I support whose life has definitely been changed by person-centered thinking is a person that I work with who has a passion for bicycling. He has worked in a lot of different settings, a lot of DTNHs where he was at a center doing piecework, but his passion was in bicycling. And his provider started taking him to a local bike shop. And he would go there and he'd talk about the bikes and talk with the guys at the shop. No one ever thought within his support planning team that him working at a bike shop would even be a possibility. And I challenged that notion and said, why can't he possibly work at a bike shop, even if it's doing labeling or just in an environment where he wants to be and he feels like he can thrive? Well, shortly thereafter, he was getting to know the guys that got to go know him on a first name basis. He joined one of their riding groups. And lo and behold, they had a position that came open for him. So he went from a place where he wasn't doing much of any work to a place where he was really passionate. He's succeeding, and he's worked there for quite a few years now, and his life has just really been truly enriched by getting to do what he wants to do. There's been a lot of changes for him. He's more confident. One of the biggest changes I've seen in him is his ability to advocate for himself. At his planning meetings, he used to just kind of sit there, listen, and let others speak for him. And it's been interesting to see how now his change in job, having other people build him up, has really made even his planning meetings, how he is giving influence and his opinion on all aspects of his life, because he feels like he's empowered to do so.
This is an effort that we're doing as a whole company that I'm really excited about. We have a great team of coaches and leaders that's really behind this. And thus far, I feel like we've seen really good outcomes from this, where the people we're supporting are happier. They feel like they're more in control. And also for the staffs, it makes their jobs a little bit easier in that they don't have to power struggle with the people we're supporting. It's just a matter of working with them and meeting them where they're at. I think overall, really good.
I have a person-centered plan. My kids have person-centered plans. I haven't quite gotten my husband to do one yet, but everyone needs a person-centered plan. It's the backbone of my business. It's the backbone of my life. I turn to my person-centered plan often.
I think the biggest takeaway, and one of the things that we need to do if we're truly embracing this philosophy, is not looking at it as a one-time meeting. Our person-centered planning needs to be an ongoing continuum of service where we're revisiting that plan at least annually. It should be integrated into the person's everyday life. All staff need to be trained on it, but it should also be something that we are revisiting so that the person doesn't miss the opportunities for future growth, and that it's not just something nice and fluffy that we do once and think that we're making a major change. We need to keep up on it and make sure that it's something that we are continuing to build upon.
I'm more involved in my life, and I started self-advocacy in 2008, and that's really encouraged me to find who I am as a person. And with person-centered planning, I figured out who were my close friends and who were not my close friends, who was my support, who wasn't my support, and how to build relationships around what I wanted. It also helped me find my dream job was to become a staff somewhere, and I reached my goal after a couple years becoming the ARC Greater Twin Cities Advocate Associate. So it really made me who I am today.
The knowledge of what is important to someone really is the most powerful tool that we can have.
Just keep your head up and voice your opinions, voice what you want.